2:30, baby, won't you meet me by the beach?
Hi, welcome to my channel. So, don't mind the look, I am getting ready for bed, but welcome. I heard you guys like to read, and if you are a reader like I am, then I have a couple book recommendations. Not even necessarily a recommendation, I just want to share to you guys what I read the past 2 months in January and February, because we are now in March and I'm starting a new book in March. So I did want to just share some of the books that I read, some of my thoughts on it. I'm not going to go too much into details, just a little tidbit on a couple of them. And you do what you please. If you want to check them out, check them out. And if you have read some of them, let's discuss it below. And if you have some book recommendation based off some of the books that I've read so far, please drop them below. I would love to check them out to see if I would like to dabble and read a couple of them. But if you read some of them, let's have a discussion. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think? What was your theory? What was your opinion? Your ratings? So on and so forth. But to not delay any longer, I want to get started. So some of the books that I read one of these books in December, like towards the end of December. So yeah, so I'm actually gonna start with that book first. So the book that I read at the end of December before the new year started was The Black Box by Michael Connelly. This book, Michael Connelly, that's his name. But I read The Black Box. This book, I honestly thought this book was gonna be boring. I don't know, just like based off this, I just thought that it was gonna be boring. I didn't think that it was gonna be anything spectacular. I don't care if it's New York #1 bestseller because I feel like even if it's a bestseller, that doesn't mean that I'm personally gonna like it. And maybe you're not gonna like it, but anyway, this book was about a cold case set almost like, well, we're going off today's day, it's like 30 years ago or so, but it was a cold case that happened back in the 90s, mid 90s, during the LA riots, and when all the turmoil was happening with the LA riots and stuff. It was a lot of cases and crime going on, so it was a lot of cold cases and unsolved murders that was going on. This particular case that they are finding in the black box that went unsolved was about this this white German woman. She was a reporter, well, photographer basically. She took pictures of like war crimes and yeah, mainly war crimes and stuff. And she came to LA on like a detour because she was going back to the war to take more pictures. But she stopped in LA and stuff to capture some of the pictures and stuff, or to take some pictures that was going on in the LA riots and during that time period. And she ended up getting killed. And so the detective that found her during the LA riots, he was still like, you know, around and on the force and stuff. So he ended up like revisiting the case and stuff and solving it. And what he ended up finding out and who ended up killing her and why they ended up killing her, it was very interesting because it was like a nice little twist and turn, because how it starts off and your thoughts on like what it could possibly be, and like all, and based off like the evidence that they were finding and stuff, you would think that it went this way. But then when it started getting towards the end, it was like the complete opposite. And it was something like that was so like on a left field. Like I didn't even think that, oh, that could be a possibility. Like I was so like, oh, this is what happened. This is the type of people that killed her and stuff. It's just a matter of fact on how y'all gonna get these people. But it was like, no. So I would rate this out of 5 stars. I would give this a 4. A 4. Only because it had a very slow start in the beginning. In my opinion, the beginning was a little bit like slow, and you kind of have to like really pay attention in order to like connect, like, okay, boom, this is what happened in the past, now let me try to like correlate everything and stuff. But I would give this a 4. Good book though, very good book. I will recommend you to read it if you like things like that. So now we're in January. The next book I read was this is actually part of a trilogy. I read the first book like last summer. The first book is Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. This is the second book, Black Girls Must Be Magic. The third book that they have is Black Girls Must Have It All. I haven't read that book yet, but it is definitely on my must-read list. I just had to take a little break between my girl Tabitha because she pissed me off on this book, so I needed a breather from her. I'm gonna revisit her and I'm gonna figure out how her life concluded. But this pretty much follows Tabitha. The first book of Black Girls Must Die Exhausted was pretty much like her relationship, career, like just a typical 30-year-old girl, you know, navigating life. Like, she's mixed race. Her dad ended up cheating on her mom, left her mom. Her mom remarried to another man and whatever like that. And just like, you know, your typical 30-year-old and stuff, where you're just trying to figure out life and stuff. Like, you want the career, you want the husband, you want the kids, you just want it all and stuff like that. And so she's just trying to just navigate that. And that's what pretty much that happened and stuff. Then she ended up getting pregnant. So this book talks about like her pregnancy with her on and off again boyfriend. Child, that relationship pissed me off. But anyway, this is about her pregnancy, her on again, off again relationship with her boyfriend, and how she's navigating pregnancy and becoming a new mom, and all of that jazz. The next book, I'm assuming that it will be about her motherhood, like motherhood in general and stuff, because at the end of this book, she ended up having a baby. So about motherhood and her co-parenting with her baby daddy and stuff like that. That's what I'm assuming the next book is about. But yeah, this book, yeah. It will piss you off. This will piss you off just based off like her back and forth and her indecisiveness and decision making. But in the same sense, it's kind of like, well, you should have just did that in the first place. But at the same time, I get it. In a little bit, I get it, but not really for real. I don't know. But I would give this one in particular, the first book, I would give it a 5, only because like I was very invested. I was a little emotional and stuff because she lost her grandmother and stuff. She was close to her grandma, and that was really sad when she ended up losing her. I cried a little bit. But this book, I would give this book maybe a 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Only because like she was pissing me off with the back and forth and indecisive. I disagree with most of her decisions that she was making in here. Even her decisions with work and stuff, and not speaking up soon enough or speaking up at all when it came to inclusivity, and her being the only black girl there, and her boss basically telling her that, hey, you shouldn't be wearing your natural hair on camera. The ratings isn't good and viewers doesn't like that. It was very passive aggressive and I didn't like it. And it was a little triggering for me because I had that happen to me once before when I was in high school, and as a teenager I didn't understand how to really navigate that situation. But as an adult, it's like, don't deem my hair texture and my hair type unprofessional just because it's curlier or it's a little coarser than the thin slickness of white women hair. So that was very triggering, and that pissed me off too and stuff. So that's why the rating is 3.5 out of 5. But yeah. The next book that I read in January also was My Sister the Serial Killer. Please don't mind the beat up book. I had this book for a while. I had this book for about a year, and this was before I really cared about taking care of books. But this book was, when I first tried to read the book, it was a very hard read. I couldn't really get into it. I couldn't follow the story or anything. But when I like recommitted myself into reading and wanted to give this book a try again, it was an okay book. I read it pretty quickly. It was like a lackluster book and stuff. It wasn't what I really thought the book was going to be about. However, towards the end, I guess it kind of like gave you the sense or showed the importance of family and what's the thing called? Family and sisterhood and whatever like that. Like the sister is like, you know, family is the only thing that you get at the end of the day. A man shouldn't come between you or whatever the case is and stuff. But it was very hot and cold, on and off type of deal and stuff. Like the main character, I just really wish that she would have just spoke up more. Like if she would have just spoken up more And then a lot of these things could have been avoided. Also, she would have just pursued the man that came out of the coma and stuff when he woke up. That could have also been like a happy little fairy tale for her too. But who knows? The girl, I don't know. I would give this book personally 2.5 out of 5. Maybe 3 out of 5. 2.5 out of 5. It was like a quick, cute little read and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything like memorable, really. Like, it was like a okay read. What else did I read? I think that was it that I read in January. And this was the other book that I read, Harlem Shuffle. This one, what's my opinion about this one? This one, this is about, what was his name? Ray? Well, Carney. His name is Carney. It's about his cousin, him and his cousin Freddie. His cousin Freddie get him into like the gangster world and whatever, like that criminal world and whatever, in Harlem, New York. And it's based in the mid 50s or something like that. Yeah, like the mid 50s, 60s and stuff. So during that era of history where it's like, you know, very much so prejudiced and racist and stuff. And it talked about like a couple, like, you know, not historical moments and stuff like that, but it talked about like how it was protests going on and stuff. People celebrated Juneteenth as well during that time. But his cousin get him involved in like this heist that they end up robbing this black hotel. Well, this black hotel during Juneteenth and whatever, and robbed a whole bunch of people and stuff. And the people that they end up robbing and whatever was like also tied in like the gangster era or whatever like that, gangster community and whatnot. So the cousin had basically said, hey, my cousin owns this furniture shop, he could use this as a front and stuff, and he can, like, you know, sell whatever you need to get sold for the money and whatever like that. The cousin Carney never agreed to it, but Freddie wanted to get some quick cash and stuff, so he ended up getting the cash. And then Freddie just kept getting into bullshit and stuff, but Carney was already like in the gangster world and he couldn't get out of it and stuff since that thing that his cousin did. And from there on and stuff, his cousin just kept getting to his shit. His cousin got hooked back up on drugs. He linked up with this rich white boy that they both was doing drugs. The rich white boy ended up dying. But before he died, they ended up robbing the rich white boy family. And that was like a whole thing and whatever like that. And then everybody was looking for Freddie, but everybody was coming to the cousin like, hey, if you see your cousin, let me know and stuff, because I need to talk to him, meaning I need him. And the cousin was like, obviously I'm not gonna let you, you know, do that to my cousin, but at the same time they like, you know, if you don't tell me, then I'm gonna go after your family and you type thing. But yeah, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. At the end, it was just like all of this happened and that was what happened. You feel me? But I just found out that it's a second book to this. So I don't know if I'm gonna get the second book, because it kind of ended where it was like I don't necessarily need to read the other book. However, just knowing that it's another book, I might be inclined to wanting to know what else happened, because he was still very much so involved in the gangster lifestyle and whatever like that. But yeah, it was, I don't know, but it was like an okay read. Like once, like the beginning part, it was kind of like a little struggle, but once you get kind of like in the middle to end of the story, you kind of follow it a little bit more seamlessly. Like in the beginning, it was like a lot of, I want to say, information that kind of was like, it was hard for me to kind of follow it for a second, because it was just like, okay, what do all this history part gotta go on? So I feel like maybe the second book might be a little bit better, because I already know like the backstory and history of the characters now. So that's that. But other than that, it was pretty decent read. I give this a 3 out of 5 stars. The story was pretty good. It was like a little struggle build up a little bit for me, but overall it was cool. I feel like this could be a very good movie, a movie or a TV show, whichever or. but I, give a full opinion once and if I read the second book, if a movie or whatever like that would be good. But yeah. Okay, so now we in my February reads. So the first book that I read starting out February was the infamous The Last Letter that you see up on TikTok. You see everybody crying about it. This book was amazing. This was an amazing book. From the start, the book was amazing. And I'm not even overhyping it, because honestly, I really thought that it was overhyped. And I'm like, if I get this book and I don't cry like y'all are crying, or if I don't connect how y'all said that you're gonna connect, I'm gonna be so mad. This book, a great book. It's pretty much about this. I mean, if you've been on TikTok and stuff, you'll see all of the reviews and, all of that and stuff. But pretty much, it's about this soldier. He comes home after his best friend ended up dying in war. His best friend also had a sister that he ended up hooking him up with, and they was writing letters back and forth to each other and stuff the entire time. The sister ended up thinking that he died along with the brother, but the whole time he wasn't, and he was there and stuff, like helping her throughout the throughout everything that she needed and stuff, because one of her twin kids ended up having cancer. And yeah, so he came back and stuff, and was helping her out with that and stuff, and they ended up falling in love thinking that he was a stranger and stuff, but the whole time she already loves him and stuff. But it just made it just even more sweeter, because it's like, you fell in love with me twice type thing. But I don't really want to give too much away from this book and stuff, because I could go on and on and on. But at the end, I was definitely sobbing my eyes out. I was sobbing. This book was phenomenal. I'm very excited that from what I read online, that Amazon Prime did pick this up to be, to be in motion pictures. So whether it's a movie or a TV show, whichever one, I don't even care. I'm gonna watch it. But this was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful story. 5 out of 5 stars. It was a beautiful story. From heartbreak to love to romance to family to commitment, to sorrow to death. It was just beautifully written, beautifully written. It almost makes me want to look at other books that she written and see what else she got out there and stuff. But this book was amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I might read another one of her books. Who knows? I'm gonna look around and do my little research. But yeah. Next book that I read after that was Luster. Okay, Luster. It was about a young girl. She ended up being in an affair with a middle-aged white man. And one second, guys. No. Fuck. Anyway, so Luster, it was about this 23-year-old or early 20s girl and stuff. She ended up being in a affair with a middle-aged white man, and what else happened in this book? I did not like this book. But I'm trying to think, because I talked about it in Rip and Rave, but it's just I don't know why I got a brain fart now. But anyway, yeah, she's in this relationship. The wife ended up finding out about the affair and whatever, gave them rules and regulations. The girl ended up going back to the house and stuff, having sex with the guy in the guy's home that he shares with his wife and adopted child. And the wife ended up finding out. The girl ended up sneaking back in and stuff like that. And the wife ended up finding her, invited her to their anniversary party. The girl lost her job, ended up turning into Uber Eats. Ended up Ubering something to the lady job or whatever at one point. And when she did that, the lady ended up inviting her back to the house, ended up letting her stay with them. She stayed there for a while. Mind you, the girl ended up losing her job, so she don't get a job, but she's supposed to be looking for a job, but then stopped looking for a job and end up being an impromptu nanny and maid in a way. I don't know, that was like very confusing and weird. The entire time I was so confused on why the girl was still staying at the house with them and not trying to hurry up and get out. She was still sleeping with the husband even though the wife asked her not to. She was still doing it. She got pregnant by him, ended up getting an abortion or losing a baby. I can't remember for real which one, but the baby wasn't there no more. The wife kicked her out and stuff, but at the same time of her kicking her out, she helped her move into her new place and also stayed and posed for a portrait to get painted of her, because the girl was also very raw at painting. But I don't understand what that, it was just like a hobby that, but it was like, as I was reading, I'm thinking that maybe she was gonna turn that into a career for real, but not really. I don't know. This book, I hated this book. When I looked at reviews and stuff and was seeing people talk about it and stuff, I really thought the story was going to be completely different than what it was. Also, it just wasn't a good story for me. I just didn't enjoy it. So that's that. Oh, I would give this a 2 out of 5 stars and stuff. Like, it was okay, but it just wasn't what I expected. Next read, Real by Kennedy Ryan. I'm gonna read more Kennedy Ryan books. This book was pretty good. It was hot and heavy, baby. Them scenes up in there that she written and stuff, it was hot and heavy. I love the character Kenneth and Neva, their love story that came together. I did think that the ending was a little bit cliche. However, the romance, the build up to it, the challenges that they both faced, it was like beautifully written and it came together very nicely. However, I did wish that the ending was like a little different. I don't know. I disagreed on the I just didn't like the ending for real. Like, it was an okay ending. Like, everybody deserves a happy ending. Everything doesn't have to be morbid and dark and stuff. But I just kind of feel like for it to be a little bit more realistic, it could have been a different ending. However, it was a beautiful romance and love story. I do recommend reading this. I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Lastly, the last book that I just finished, MJ. Okay, let me wrap this up. So the last book that I finished at the end of February was The Coworker by Freida McFadden. My sister actually gave me this book. This is her book that I'm borrowing right now. I do have to give it back to her. However, this book was a psychological thriller. It was amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I could not put this book down after getting to like chapter 20 something and whatever. I was just glued to it. I really thought that I solved it at one point. I was texting my sister constantly and she was just like reacting to the messages and stuff. But like once I got to like towards the end, when it kind of like answered every question that I ever had, it was so like mouth dropping. Like, I don't even want to tell y'all what it's about because it's going to give the entire story away. And like psychological thrillers, you just can't do that. Like, but this book was, it had a lot of like, okay, it's going this way and then it's twist and it went the other way. But this book was amazing. The characters are crazy. The characters are insane. They are insane. However, it was a great story. It would have you glued to the pages. So I would give this a 5 out of 5 stars as well. The Coworker by Freida McFadden. If you watched The Housemaid or if you read The Housemaid and you haven't read this yet and stuff, I definitely would recommend you reading this. I haven't read or seen The Housemaid at all, but this was my first introduction of her. So I'm very excited and happy about that. And to conclude, the book that I'm reading starting today, well, probably tomorrow because it's a little late, but the book that I'm starting March off with is Monday's Not Coming. I'm so excited to read this book. I heard great things about it, and when I come back at the end of March to give you guys my full breakdown of all the books that I read in March, I would definitely tell you guys about this book. But that concludes it. That's my book review on what I read come January to the end of February. If you like some of the books or you're intrigued by some of the books, definitely check them out. If you read some of them and you have different takes or opinion about them, or you want to elaborate on some of the things that I said, definitely comment below. I would love to have that type of discussion below. And again, if you have any book recommendation that you think that I would love based off the books that I read so far with January and February reads, I would love for the recommendations to be dropped below so I can add them to my want to read list, and then also just, you know, learn about it. But this is a new thing that I definitely want to introduce and stuff, like, because I've been getting back into my reading bag. And yeah, and if you love to read too and you need book recommendations and you don't know, or if you just want to get into reading, definitely check out some of these. Like, you will love it. And yeah, 2026, we're all about falling in love with things that we once did love, or just picking up new hobbies and new things. So if you love to read, come back at the end of the month so you guys can see what I read in March. Thanks. Bye.